All right, so you have a audibly and visibly emotional Mike Budenholzer.
Very cool.
Really cool. When he says how meaningful it is to be the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, that is absolutely genuine. Holbrook in the house multiple times, the small town where he grew up in northeastern Arizona, representing with his 94-year-old father in the front row. That's Al McCoy with a surprise announcement.
Yeah.
And just how his voice was shaking, just referring to Al McCoy, the voice he heard as a kid who was, in the 99th percentile of Suns fans growing up, and just his references to some of the Suns all-timers, you realize how meaningful this moment is to Mike Budenholzer.
That's exactly what I wrote down, Paulie. First and foremost was just Al McCoy, the legendary Al McCoy, actually showing up and doing this, knowing how much it had to mean to Coach Bud. You know what I mean? Honestly, for a kid growing up in Holbrook, and you've got the legendary Al McCoy. It doesn't get much better. And I love the fact that Coach Bud and his voice quivering as he was remembering that. Think about that, Basin Earnings. That's not a weakness. That's strength is what that is. He cares that much about it. It's so human, and it's so strong to do that. I love that. A little bit of character being shown here from Coach Bud.
Because it was early in the press conference where he paused, and he said, and I quote, "It's mind-boggling, mind-blowing to me that I'm the head coach of the Phoenix Suns." And he let that hang. And he cited his 94-year-old father and their state title, Arizona State Championship in 1971, and his voice wavered there as well. But then he talked about the Suns and the expectations for the Suns. And with, quote, "with great players come great expectations," and that he is there to elevate this team and this roster so they are realistic NBA championship expectations.
That's right, Paulie. One of the other things you said earlier in this press conference, he said, compete, compete, compete. You know, would you say that's going to be culture right there for Mike Budenholzer? Compete in everything that you do, offensively and defensively. Compete, compete, compete. And I know, Basinonians, that we all take that for granted. Of course, he's going to say compete. But to me, he was driving home the point that in everything we do, we're going to compete. And that is going to be my expectation for every guy. He's doubling down on everything that I love about culture by saying compete, compete, compete. Oh, by the way, I don't care if you are one of the big three. I'm going to challenge you. That was the other thing. Coach you hard. That's what he said. That really, I wrote that down. Talk is cheap and coach you hard. Those two things. A little bit of the soul of Mike Budenholzer.
In fact, I think the most important moment of the press conference when it comes to the future fortunes of the Phoenix Suns had to do with that question about the big three, his expectations, what his plan is, and then what James Jones said that he felt made the timing right and why they immediately moved to Mike Budenholzer. Just wrapped up. Mike Budenholzer introduced by Al McCoy and James Jones, the new head coach of the Phoenix Suns, the team he grew up following from Holbrook, well represented in attendance. You could hear them. They had a good time, and Mike Budenholzer did his best just to maintain his composure and not break down. That's how meaningful and emotional this moment was to the new Suns head coach.
So cool, man. It really is to see that. It's so real. And yet again, Paulie, it shows strength to me, not a weakness. It's the strength of character to think to himself, do you believe this is going on? Shows an awful lot of gratitude from Mike Budenholzer.
And he kept it real at times, saying, look, talking about championships, meaningless. It's about what you do every day. Said they'd start as soon as Monday, working on three-pointers, for example. And that, yes, he does value high volumes of three-point attempts. Yes, the Suns will play that sort of ball. They will embrace that. And then, of course, inevitably, and one of the big questions, if not the biggest, revolves around the big three. And the new head coach of the Phoenix Suns was asked whether he's talked to them and what those conversations were like.
Yeah, definitely had a chance to talk with those three guys and really most or almost all of the roster. And those conversations are private, and they're important to me. And I think the honesty that particularly those three guys have had with me and shared with me, it's been great. I think they hope they know they have a coach that's going to listen to them, values, their experience, their knowledge. We want guys with super high basketball IQs, and I think all three of those guys have that. So I would just say super healthy conversations, very respectful both ways. I think we take it all in, we listen, and we make great decisions, and those guys are included. They're big to us, they're important to us.
And he's had more than a week. He was introduced. The announcement came out last Saturday. The decision was made before that. And then, Wolf, the follow-up question was just about that relationship between a head coach and those three big superstars.
Yeah, the most important thing with all the great players, but to be honest with you, with every player on our roster, is to build a relationship with them, show them that you care about them genuinely, that you care about their family, you care about things that are going on in their life, and you care about making them the best basketball player that they can become. I think the great ones want to get better. They're not content. They're not happy with where they are. They want to keep getting better. So, building a relationship with them, showing you that you genuinely care about them, and then I would say coaching them, coach them hard. That's what I've seen for really all of my NBA life. I'm certainly trying to do it as a head coach. I'm not perfect, but my experience is you got to coach your best players. You got to coach them hard. You got to demand of them. You got to have high expectations for them, and usually they thrive. That's part of what makes them great. They actually want to be coached. They want it. And so that's been my observation. That's, kind of my mentality going into this.
That was the best cut. That was my favorite cut right there. Why are you laughing?
No,
because you know why.
You gave a fist pump when he said that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You got to coach them hard. This is what you got to do right here. And once again, I would say don't ask them permission to coach them hard. Just coach them hard because you're their coach. This is what you do. It's why... It's what a difference is between a coach and a leader, Paul. Okay, this is the thing that I've got a hard time with. Of course, the coach is the leader. He's the head coach. Okay, he's the leader on the strategic level. This is what we're going to do. But Paul, you need leadership on the tactical level of how you're going to do it. Guys that are actually out there on the floor. Okay, this is great up here, Coach. We've got this strategic philosophy that you have, right? And you are our leader. You're going to tell us what to do. Well, now all of a sudden, all these guys down here are going to help us on a daily basis with how we're going to do that. It's two different levels of leadership. And to me, you don't call a coach a leader. He's your coach. That's what he is. Leaders come from players on the tactical level.
So as part of your point that the only true path to any title in any sport is when you have the best players with the best habits. The best players are the example that everyone else follows.
No doubt, Paul.
To me, it's not feasible unless your best players are the ones setting the example.
Yes.
And it's nothing that can be said. It can't be a slogan. It has to be seen and witnessed, and guys have to buy into it. So to follow up on that, Coach Budenholzer commented just on Kevin Devin and Bradley Beal and the expectations that everyone has for him, and then how he's going to go about holding them accountable.
We have some great players, and Devin and Kevin and Brad, they are big time. So I think they know that I'm going to have high expectations of them. I'm going to coach them. I'm going to hold them accountable. But that's what I'm going to do with everybody. And so it's not any different. That's kind of been my roadmap for coaching, whether it's the best players or the entire roster.
Boy, that is something that we've heard about Coach Bud as well. The fact that he's going to coach everybody and he's going to treat them the same way. Man, I would love to see that right there. And again, to coach them hard. I'm your coach. This is what we do. We're not always going to agree. I'm going to call you out from time to time. I'm going to hold myself as a coach accountable to a high level. I'm going to hold myself accountable. and I'm going to hold you guys accountable as well. For me, this is critical. It's critical that you have this kind of player-coach relationship.
It was interesting to hear James Jones when asked why they let Frank Vogel go, why they made the change, and the one key word that he heard from Coach Bud. Here's James Jones.
We needed to improve in a lot of areas. There wasn't one specific area. But I say by and large, we just felt the timing to shift was right. And we moved quickly to Bud just because when we look at our roster and what our roster needs, he fits it, right? I'm a competitive guy, and we talk about this too. Throughout that process, Bud must have said compete 95 times in 2 minutes. But compete at everything, compete in practice, compete with each other, against each other, compete against your opponent, but more importantly, compete with yourself. And I thought that was an area of our team where we could be better, because there were bouts where we didn't reach our potential. A lot of that was just the inconsistency and our competitive nature. And so that's something we wanted to rectify, and I believe we're getting it right.
Facts. It wasn't just the playoffs. It was the Sunday ABC game, and you're down 35-4. It was going 1-3 against the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah.
The inconsistent compete level must have been very vexing for James Jones.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's fascinating to me because there was a report that was out there that the Phoenix Suns in that 35-4 game went out there and basically went out there and didn't play very focused because they got yelled at. If you recall, Paulie, this was a story that was out there once again. And for me, I'm just saying right now, this is going to be a big deal because Coach Bud, by all accounts, is a guy that will raise his voice and he will yell. He will do it by all accounts. Are you going to be okay with that, Kevin Durant? Are you going to be okay with that, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal? Are you going to be okay with that? If this guy coaches you hard, are you going to be okay with that? Because that is a must. If Coach Bud is going to have the impact that we all hope he really has on this team, the big three in particular are going to have to say, it's okay if you coach me hard and set that example for everybody else.
Compete. And Coach Budenholzer talked about that.
The type of team we want to be, it's what James said. At the end of the day, we want to be competitors. We want to compete. That is our calling card. We want to be a team that plays unselfish. We want to be a team that stays together. And lastly, we want to be a team and players individually that are getting better every day. If we focus on what we're doing each day, that's what's going to give us our best chance to realize our potential to be a championship level team. I'm sure I'll get questions, but at the end of the day, if our focus is on what we're doing every day, that's what matters most. Talking about championships, it's kind of meaningless. At the end of the day, talk is cheap. What you do every day is powerful. And so, as I talk to our players, I talk to our ownership, our front office, everybody, what are we doing every day to be our best? And that's what's going to give us our best chance to win championships in Phoenix.
And to come full circle, the very top of the press conference, James Jones, in introducing Mike Budenholzer, what did he say? He said he's a competitor. We're here to compete for championships, and I believe we will compete for championships. So the general manager setting down the bar, the expectations.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.